Hey friends, welcome to Blue Rooster Farms Kitchen. This is Karen. Glad you're here today because today we are going to be making a delicious dessert. If you like brownies, fudge, marshmallows, you're going to love this one. We are making Mississippi mud cake, and it is one of our family's favorites. I love this recipe for having company because it's easy to make and it stores well. It's also great to take to potlucks, but it is absolutely delicious. So come along with me and let's make Mississippi mud cake. All right, I think I have you so you can see. I got it down there, yeah. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off with our eggs. And this recipe is Mississippi mud cake. And the base of the cake is kind of a brownie. And the brownie doesn't have any leavening except for eggs. So you're gonna notice there's no baking soda or baking powder, but there are lots of eggs. So I've got some young little brown eggs from young chicks or chickens. So it says the recipe calls for 4 eggs, but I'll probably add 5 or 6 just because my eggs are quite small. So what we're gonna do is we're going to crack our eggs, put them in the bowl, and we're gonna mix those up nicely. So let's just check. And whenever I have farm eggs, I always crack them in a cup first and check them. So there we have 2, and again they're very small. This would take 4 regular size eggs or 4 large eggs. The eggs are really nice besides being small. They're just young hens who are just starting to lay, and so they don't have quite the size of eggs. So I think I'm going to add 6 because these are small. So I'm going to add 6 of my little eggs. Very good. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these eggs and we are going to whisk them up nice and fluffy. Get them nice and light. They're kind of getting kind of a lemony color. I'm going to mix those a little bit more, but while those are mixing, what I'm going to do is put in the microwave our chocolate and butter. So you're going to need 2 sticks of butter. Now you could also use, according to my recipe that I have here, you can use half butter, half shortening or lard. And usually I do use half butter, half lard. But I went to my refrigerator to get my lard, and I don't have quite half a cup, and I keep mine in the freezer, so trying to get frozen lard out of a jar is impossible. So I won't be using lard today. I'll just be using butter. So 2 sticks of butter. And if you use salted, that's fine. Unsalted, that's fine too, whichever you have. Then we're going to add half a cup of cocoa to our butter. So here's my butter. And I'm going to see if I can move you so you can see a little bit better. There, I think you can see there. So let's add half a cup of cocoa. So here we have 1/4 of a cup. And 1/4 of a cup. Now I have been known to add some chocolate chips to this and melt it too, or baker's chocolate. So, you know, if you're running low of cocoa, you can do some substituting. So my 2 sticks of butter, my half a cup of cocoa, that's going to go into my microwave. And we're going to melt that. All right, so let me go back to whipping my eggs. I'm going to start this up on whipping again, and as I'm whipping, I'm going to be adding my sugar, and I'm going to need 2 cups of sugar, and I'm going to add it gradually, and it'll fluff. The more I whip it, the fluffier it'll get. So I'm going to turn this on, and you'll probably not hear the machine because I'll probably speed it up and show you me adding the sugar. So here we go. So I gradually added that sugar. You probably noticed me pouring it in, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that sugar to melt into the eggs, and I want to show you this texture. You're going to have a very light colored, thick, foamy, fluffy egg with sugar. That's what you're looking for. Now when I stirred a little bit, I still hear a little bit of the sugar granules, so I'm going to whip it just a little bit longer. And while that's whipping, I took my, oops, I put that in there. I took my sugar and cocoa out of the microwave, and it melted nicely. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here is our cocoa and our butter, and I'm just going to stir that up, and it's going to be kind of a fudgy thin sauce. You want to get the chunks out. If you have cocoa pieces still floating around, just whisk those in, get those stirred in so no one will bite into one of those bitter chunks. So it looks like this is melted very nicely. Okay, I'm just going to let that cool right here. Again, it didn't heat up very much. I had it on melt setting, but it heated up just enough to melt, but I do not want it to be too hot when I add it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on for just about 1 more minute, and then we'll come back. All right, that looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some flour to this. We're going to add 1½ cups of regular all-purpose flour. Here's 1. And 1/2. We also need to add to this 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to have mine a little bit heaping because I'm using kosher salt and it's a coarser grain. So I heaped a little bit. I'm also going to add to that some vanilla, and it says 1 teaspoon. You can add as much as you like. And I always add a little bit of almond. So I've added that to my recipe, a half a teaspoon of almond flavor. It just gives it just a good taste. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whisk off. And I'm just going to put in my paddle. Okay. And we're just going to mix that till it's incorporated. Okay, so I've got that mixed in, the flour's mixed in, I didn't over mix it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my butter and my cocoa mixture. Now I'm going to test this and make sure it's not hot. I don't want it hot, I just want it warm. Yep, it's just warm. And we're going to slowly pour that in and slowly mix it, just kind of fold it in. Boy, that smells good. Now what you're going to notice is your batter's going to start thickening up a little bit because that butter's starting to cool off a little bit. And you're going to get a really pretty mixture. And I'm going to go ahead and take this off and finish stirring it by hand, just to make sure it's incorporated. So let me move this out of our way. Make sure you can see it. Get our batter cleaned off. That's good. You always got a sample. Okay, so I'm just gonna scrape the sides and the bottom to make sure everything is mixed thoroughly. And it looks like it is. Okay, so while I've been baking, my oven's been heating at 350 degrees. And I'm going to put this in a 13 by 9 inch greased cake pan. So I'm going to give it a spray. Okay. Oh, and there's one more thing. You don't have to add this, but we like it. And that is nuts. I'm going to add, let's see what it says. It calls for a cup of nuts, and that's probably what I have here. A cup of, actually this is probably a cup of chopped nuts. It'd be a little bit more whole nuts. And I think I'm going to save just a couple tablespoons out to put on top. That way people will know that there are nuts in the cake. So let me put, and these are walnuts. You could use pecans, walnuts, any of those would be fine. So I kept a couple tablespoons out. I'm just going to hand mix these right in, and this looks so good. And we always talk about where they got the name Mississippi Mud cake, and I would say it's the muddy color, the chocolate color, and like the nuts are the rocks, and you're going to have that marshmallow topping. So you've got all the different types of layers in there, and that's going to be really good. All right, so we're going to pour this into our 13 by 9 inch pan. And you can see See how it's thickened up? That butter's cooling. This is very similar to my brownie recipe. You might have noticed that. I meant to grab an apron. All right. Now let's smooth it out. All right, so in the oven this is going to go, and we are going to bake it for about 30 minutes, depending on your oven and how hot. Mine doesn't heat up as high, I don't think, so sometimes I have to go a little longer. But we're going to stick this in now, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so we have about 3 minutes left until we check our cake. We're going to start making the icing. This icing is going to be poured onto the cake hot and while the cake is hot. So what I have in here right now is 1 stick of butter. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of milk. And 1/3 cup of cocoa. And what we're going to do is we're going to stir and let that cocoa get mixed up with the butter and milk. And once this becomes hot and melted, we're going to add our powdered sugar. So I'll bring you back when it's melted. All right, so it's just about melted. I have just a little bit of this stick of butter left in here. 30 minutes came on my cake and my timer went off, but when I checked it, it was still gooey in the middle, so it is not ready yet. Like I said, my oven is not as hot as some ovens. It is a convection gas oven. I'm used to cooking with it, so I'm fine with it, but I'm letting it go 5 more minutes and I'll check it. When it's just about done, not quite, but just about, we're going to take it out of the oven and we're going to sprinkle our marshmallows on it. And you can use as many marshmallows as you want. We'll probably use half a pack or 3/4 of a pack. We'll see how much it is. And then we'll put it back in and let it finish cooking for another 5 minutes. So if it's not quite done when we pull it out, it will finish cooking. So let's look back over here. Looks like this is finished melting. So now we've got our, let's see what we put in here. We put a stick of butter. We put 1/3 cup of cocoa and 1/3 cup of milk in here. Now we're going to add 1 pound of powdered sugar. So you could use a whole box of powdered sugar, or if you buy it in the bag, you use 4 cups. 4 cups is about 1 pound of sugar. So we're going to start adding that. But actually, I think I'm going to add my flavoring first. Let me get my vanilla and my almond. So to this, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1/2 teaspoon of almond flavor. And it's just now coming to a little bit of a boil. You don't need to boil it really, you just need to get it hot. Again, you don't have to add the almond flavor. That's just my preference. Okay, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Looks like it's good. Okay, so we're going to add 4 cups of powdered sugar. And let's grab, we'll do it by half cups. So you don't want this to burn, so make sure you don't let it burn. Again, I've turned it off. It's off. So there's a half. There's a cup. So we got 1 cup in there. Stir it up, and you're going to see some lumps. You could sift this if you want. I'm fine not sifting. It usually works its way out by the time it's thickened up. Okay, we got 2 cups in there now. And if you notice there's a few lumps, you can just push them with the back of your spatula against the side of the pan and they break up. Okay, there's 3 cups of powdered sugar. Okay, and I hear my timer, so let me check on that. Okay, I'm going to show you real quickly. It's still really jiggly inside. I'm going to cook it about 3 more minutes. So that's still in the oven. Okay, we've got 3 cups of powdered sugar here. And if you want to get a whisk works well on this too. I usually use a whisk. Okay, and then our final cup. Now, since it's hot, it's going to be pretty loose. It will thicken up and harden up when it cools. That looks good. And there are little pieces right now of powdered sugar, but as it sets, it will soak those up and I can smash them down with my spatula. And again, if you want to sift your powdered sugar, that would be wonderful too. Okay, so you can kind of see the thickness. It's a thick fudge sauce, but it's hot right now, so it's okay. So we're just going to set that here, leave that here. Don't want it to cool down too fast because when it cools down, then we've got to warm it back up, and hopefully we'll just keep it warm here. Okay, and got just a couple of minutes. Let me go ahead and get my marshmallows ready. Let me grab those. Okay, there's the timer. Okay, it's just about done. It's not quite done. It's still, if I stuck a fork in it or a knife, it would be sticking to the knife. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly sprinkle and spread a layer of marshmallows. And I'm using about half a bag. It looks like this is a 16 ounce, so I'm using about 8 ounces. Get them all covered. And now I'm going to put it right back in the oven. And we're going to let it cook for about 5 more minutes. Okay, what I'd really like to be showing you right now is me taking our cake out of the oven. The marshmallows were nicely toasted and melted, and we would be pouring that pan of fudge icing on the top and letting it just ooze over. But someone forgot to hit the record button. So here's where we're at right now. We're going to throw a few nuts on the top. That way people that might have a nut allergy will be alerted that there's nuts inside. And it just makes it good. All right, let me hold this up for you. Mississippi mud cake. It'll be one of your family favorites too. Remember, if you like this recipe, like and subscribe. Also, the recipe will be at the end of this video for you to either take a screenshot or to copy down. All right, you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you later. Okay, so I've cut the piece out. It's still warm. Didn't let it cool. It will harden up if you let it cool. It won't be ooey gooey like this right now, but okay, you can see I'm just tearing it up. The fudgy brownie in there, the nuts, the marshmallow, the fudge. That is really good. The brownie is very moist. The nuts, nice crunch. I tell you, you don't need much of this. It is very rich and it is delicious. Again, if you can see the brownie on it with the nuts. You need to make this weekend. Really, really good. Throw a scoop of ice cream on it. Get a cup of milk. It's a keeper.